In this brain training video, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to change your mind and utilize your brain's fantastic abilities to break out of depression so that you don't have to spend another minute trying to figure out what's going on when you feel depressed. We're talking about neuroplasticity and depression. Let's do it. I know what it feels like to feel depressed. It feels awful. But you know what? Everyone's experienced depression now and then in life, and it's human. In fact, many people out there are depressed and they don't even know it. They just assume that's what life is like. When I've gotten depressed in the past, I didn't want to do anything. I felt lethargic, low energy. I lost interest in the things that used to turn me on. Apathy set in, and I just didn't care about the things that normally mattered to me. Maybe you know what that's like. The good news is that you can break through depression and feel better today without antidepressants. Hey, I'm Dave Ryder. I'm from BreakthroughMindsets.com. I'm a breakthrough mindset specialist, neuroprogrammer, and a mindsetter. I've worked with people and groups for over 20 years, all around the world for the past 10 years, and there's one thing I can tell you about depression. Man, it is depressing. So let's talk a little bit about neuroplasticity real quick. Neuroplasticity, in a nutshell, is the brain's ability to change and remodel itself around learning what we learn and healing. The human brain is dynamic and it adapts to changes in our environment and our reactions to it. Did you know that anxiety and depression, they go hand in hand? They are thinking depressed and anxious thoughts creates chemistry and neuroplasticity in the brain. And then the body expresses it and we feel it. That's how we create depression and anxiety. What we think and believe can actually be damaging to our mind and our body chemically and also epigenetically because we produce dis-ease and dysfunction. But don't worry, all of this stuff can all be turned around once you become aware of what you're doing and start to change. When we practice and rehearse depressing thoughts, they actually create neural networks or pathways in the brain that become automatic and conditioned. We call that stinking thinking for a reason. These negative, depressing thoughts, they affect our attitude towards change, the way that we see the world and ourselves and our perceived options, as well as the actions that we take or don't take to change the situation. But they are not permanent. You need to do certain things to be anxious and depressed. It's a skill. And here are the key ingredients for creating depression and anxiety. Are you ready? You have to have a negative thought or belief, and then an emotional reaction to that thought or belief, and then you have to practice it over and over on a regular basis. That's it. That's how we create anxiety and depression. And it's this combination that causes the brain to model itself around the thoughts, making them seem real, and then creating neural networks of related thoughts, ideas, memories, experiences that are then stored in the subconscious mind. What we know and do with our clients every day is change the harmful stuff that they put inside of their own subconscious mind, so it's absolutely not permanent. The parts of the brain that get wired for depression and anxiety, if we continue to practice the same negative thoughts and beliefs, will get stronger and more efficient at producing the symptoms of anxiety and depression. It's just like learning how to play the piano, right? You get better with practice. In other words, the brain is listening and it learns what we tell ourselves to be true on a regular basis. The subconscious mind follows orders without judgment. Our magnificent brain then starts to create our personal version of reality around what we've been drilling into our head until we take control and start to put awesome thoughts, ideas, and beliefs into our own head so that our minds will begin to take us where we want to go instead. Think about it. What option does your mind have when you constantly practice limited negative thoughts and ideas? Nothing. Your mind doesn't have anything else to go on. Do you remember those days when you used to cram for tests in high school and college? How did you remember all that information that you never used? That's right. Practice and repetition is how you learned then, and it's how you learn now. So let's take a step back and think for a moment, what do the big pharmaceutical companies have to say about depression? Well, they won't hesitate to tell you that you have a problem and they have the solution. Some of the time the drugs actually suppress the symptoms, but most of the time they do not. They certainly don't put us in control of our own health, our thinking, or belief system. You aren't Prozac deficient. That's not your problem. Your only problem is that you haven't yet learned how to produce the results of health and well-being. We change our chemistry and our biology with our inner self-talk and beliefs, epigenetically. So we create disease and disorder and dysfunction and so forth, or health and wellness. What would happen if you started to water the weeds in your garden? Only water the weeds in the garden. That's right. Their roots would grow deeper and they would get bigger and they soon would overtake the entire garden. When you stop watering the weeds, stop feeding the weeds, they start to wilt and they shrivel up. Then all of a sudden, the rest of the garden gets a chance to thrive. Isn't that amazing? So how soon are you going to stop watering the weeds in your mind? Don't get stuck into your negative thoughts. Your brain is either doing one of two things. It's either affirming what you already know, or it's learning something new, even if it's not true. All right? I remember growing up, we learned that we had a limited number of brain cells and that our IQ actually went down as we aged. We got stupider because our brain cells, they stopped growing or they died after the age of 30. Back then, that was leading edge BS. And BS stands for belief system, by the way. If you don't change your thinking, the world will do it for you with its own agenda. Guaranteed. So here's what to do if you want to use your brain's brilliant abilities, neuroplastic abilities, to start to make positive changes in your life. Number 1, write down your top 10 favorite depressing thoughts on a piece of paper. Then write down a positive and present opposite version of the same thought. Number 2, practice repeating this new healthy thought variation with strong emotion and using a stopwatch timer. It can be on your cell phone or whatnot. Number 3, concentrate and focus on this once or twice a day for 5 minutes. If you go longer, be forewarned, you might feel better, so be careful. Do not do this if you like to feel depressed. Be consistent with your practice. You are practicing what you will believe about yourself and the situation. And the cool thing is that you can believe anything you want. You are training your brain to see things in a different way. Remember, practice makes what? Perfect. No, that's actually not the case. Perfect is a fantasy. It doesn't exist. The goal behind practice is to make permanent. Practice makes permanent. So let me leave you with this question. If you could change 3 things about yourself, what would they be? Please leave your answer in the comments below so I can make more videos. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.